For $25,000, you could buy a brand new Toyota Corolla. It's a sedan so boring that it feels like you were ordered to buy it by a federal court. Alternatively, you could pick up any of these three used EVs: the Tesla Model 3, the Polestar 2, or the Hyundai IONIQ 6, all of which can sprint to 60 in under 5 seconds and restore your confidence in your own volition. In today's video, we are going to compare and contrast these three all-wheel drive electric sedans and help you determine which one is the best overall package. Before we start today's video, my name is Andrew Lambrecht. I'm a project engineer here at Ever, and I'm also a contributor at Inside EVs and Business Insider covering electric cars. As a preface, today's video is going to focus on $25,000 used examples of these three EVs. We are also going to be focusing only on the all-wheel drive variant. So all three of these vehicles are all-wheel drive, and we wanted to do that just to standardize this video. We didn't want to compare front or rear-wheel drive vehicles to all-wheel drive. As I'm sure you're familiar, vehicle packages and options can differ, so I'll try my best to explain all the different packages and features these vehicles might offer. Without further ado, let's explore the tech specs of all of our entrants. Our first contender is the Model 3, the most popular electric sedan around, and you can find 2021 through 2023 model years for around $25,000. These vehicles have an EPA range of between 353 and 358 miles. The vast majority of long-range Model 3s from this time frame offer an 82 kilowatt-hour battery pack, though there were some very few really early 2021 model years that offered a 75 kilowatt-hour one. The all-wheel drive Model 3 weighs in at 4,065 pounds and produces about 400 horsepower. This Model 3 we're referencing is priced at $23,500, and it's a 2022 model year with about 71,000 miles on the odometer. Next up is the 2022 through 2023 Polestar 2. This vehicle offers a 75 kilowatt-hour battery pack and is good for an EPA range of between 249 and 260 miles. The 2022s are good for 249 and the 2023s can push 260. Regardless, the all-wheel drive version weighs in at 4,658 pounds, yet it produces 408 horsepower. This particular example is a 2022 priced at $25,700, but it only has 14,000 miles on the odometer. So this is a very low mileage example when you would compare it to the Model 3. Finally, we have the 2023 through 2024 Hyundai IONIQ 6. This vehicle uses an 800-volt battery architecture and it has a capacity of 77.4 kilowatt hours. It's good for an EPA range of 270 miles. As for weight and power, this vehicle weighs in at 4,016 pounds and produces 320 horsepower. This particular IONIQ 6 is priced at $26,000 and shows just under 11,000 miles. I think all three of these cars offer really solid value propositions on paper, and it's important to note that the Polestar 2 and IONIQ 6 are pretty low miles. So if you want to find one with, say, 30 or 40,000 miles, or maybe a little bit newer with higher miles, then you'll easily find those for under $25,000. Moreover, a lot of these Polestars and IONIQ 6s are coming off lease after their 2 or 3 year leases. So if you want to find one that's in really good shape, I really recommend finding an ex-lease one, because the leasing companies will take in the cars, inspect them, and make sure that they're in good conditions. And most lease agreements require that you keep the cars in pretty good shape. But now let's check out these cars' designs. The first design we will check out is that of the Model 3. Now, people are really familiar with the Model 3 because this car has been out since 2017 and never saw any significant exterior refreshes until the 2024 model year. But this car looks pretty nice still. We get a 0.23 drag coefficient and 5.5 inches of ground clearance. As standard, you get 18-inch aero wheels, and on 2021 and newer Model 3s, you get black trim around the windows. These door handles are electronic, so you push in and pull up, and then there is an electronic mechanism that releases to open up the door. We also get frameless windows, which look pretty sporty. And I gotta say, the overall design of this car is aging because we've seen this car so many times, but I think it still looks pretty pleasant. Compared to the Model 3, the Polestar 2 looks a lot more aggressive. We get some angles in the hood and proportions that kind of resemble a muscle car. We also get some nice design characteristics like this plastic cladding around the wheels, which makes this car look a little more rugged, and it is a little bit more rugged. This car has 5.9 inches of ground clearance, so not that much more than the Model 3, but you could feel more comfortable taking this on gravel roads knowing that you have plastic on the lower side of the car as opposed to painted bodywork. The Polestar 2 is also not that aerodynamic. We get a drag coefficient of 0.278, which is on the higher side. There are some design quirks on the exterior, like frameless side view mirrors and a little badge on the lower side of the vehicle telling you what the battery capacity and power output numbers are. What isn't quirky, however, are the door handles. So these are regular old door handles, cable release, and the windows are not frameless in this car. Around back, we get this nice LED light bar, and I think the Polestar 2 just looks very premium. And finally, we have the Hyundai IONIQ 6. This vehicle looks like a flaccid Porsche Taycan, which is good and bad. It's good because the drag coefficient is very low. In fact, this vehicle has a 0.21 drag coefficient, making it one of the most aerodynamic cars on the road. The downside is it looks like a flaccid Porsche Taycan. The IONIQ 6 offers 5.6 inches of ground clearance, and this particular one is an SEL variant, so we get 20-inch alloy wheels, this kind of silverish cladding along the lower side of the vehicle, which is unique. But the one thing I don't really like is that we do have really cheap kind of plastic window trim here. It just doesn't really feel that nice. The one thing that is pretty cool are the door handles. So these door handles retract automatically, so whenever you approach the car, they pop out. And despite the look, these are not electronic door releases. These are regular cables, just like in the Polestar 2. And once the doors are open, you can see that these are regular framed windows. Whenever you close the doors, you can press this button right here to lock it. You can manually lock the doors, or when you leave the vehicle, the doors will lock automatically. My favorite attribute of the IONIQ 6 is this back area. So we get these cool pixel LED taillights. We get this unique kind of diffuser looking thing towards the bottom, this ducktail spoiler, and this secondary spoiler that's very reminiscent of a Porsche 911. Our segment winners are the Polestar 2 and IONIQ 6. The Polestar 2 stands out because it just looks really unique. It almost looks like a crossover of a, well, crossover and a sedan. We also get the best ground clearance out of any of the cars here at 5.9 inches, and we get that plastic on the lower side of the vehicle that makes you feel confident taking this car on dirt roads. We also got to give the IONIQ 6 some credit because it is so aerodynamic. This vehicle has a drag coefficient of just 0.21, and the overall design language of this vehicle is very avant-garde. While some people may dislike the design of the IONIQ 6, I think it's pretty cool. It's thought-provoking. It's something you see down the road and someone looks and thinks. I don't know exactly what they would be thinking, but they will be thinking something. In terms of cargo volume, the Model 3 offers a power-operated trunk that opens up to reveal 15 cubic feet of cargo volume. Now, this trunk is pretty accessible, and we also have this lower load floor area that reveals some more space below. Up front, the Model 3 has a front trunk that's home to 3.1 cubic feet of cargo volume. This is big enough to throw in a pretty good sized duffel bag, and this is the biggest front trunk out of all of these vehicles. Now, 3.1 cubic feet up front plus 15 cubic feet in back delivers us a total cargo volume of 18.1 cubic feet. As for cargo volume, the Polestar 2 has a power-operated tailgate with this built-in cargo cover. As you can see, there's a very wide angle to access your goods back here, and there's a lot of cool features. So first off, there is this cargo cover that pops up like so. There's little hooks in here so you can put your groceries very easily back here. And we do, like the Tesla, have a lower load floor area. This one is also really large. The Polestar 2's total trunk volume is 14.4 cubic feet, so this is very big, but it's just 0.6 cubic feet behind the Model 3s. Up front, the Polestar 2 has a front trunk with a volume of 1.2 cubic feet. It's not a lot, but it's enough to keep your charging cables located up here. Between this and the 14.4 cubic feet rear trunk, we get 15.6 cubic feet of total cargo volume in the Polestar 2. Underneath the IONIQ 6's kind of crazy trunk lid situation, we have a power trunk that reveals 11.2 cubic feet of cargo volume. This trunk area is fine. It feels a little shallow, though there is some space below the lower load floor area, but not quite as much as in the Polestar 2 or Model 3. Up front, the IONIQ 6 has a 0.5 cubic foot front trunk. I don't even know if you can get an iPad box in there, but there is a front trunk, so that is something to be thankful or whatever about. In total, we get 11.7 cubic feet of cargo volume, which gives the IONIQ 6 the smallest frunk and smallest trunk out of all three of these cars. Our cargo segment winners are the Model 3 and the Polestar 2. The Model 3 has the most cargo space out of all these cars, coming in at 18.1 cubic feet of total volume. The Polestar 2 offers 15.6 cubic feet of cargo volume, which is less than the Model 3. However, it has a tailgate, which makes it really easy to access your goods in the back. The first interior we will dissect is that of the Model 3. Now, all Model 3s come as standard with heated rear seats from this generation, so that's really nice, and they're made out of this leatherette material. They're a little stiff, but overall relatively comfortable, and there's a decent amount of space back here. One of the nice things back here is that you get a totally flat floor area, 2 USB-C ports, 2 AC vents, and you get a center armrest with 2 cup holders. As standard, you also get this massive panoramic glass roof and these nice little micro suede inserts in the door cards. If you are going to sit in the middle seats, it's not bad either. So thanks to the floor area, there is still plenty of legroom. And yes, the headroom might be a little limited for taller people, but I think the back seats are pretty solid in here. Up front, the driver and passenger seats are pretty comfortable. They have a decent amount of bolstering, and the driver's seat is 12-way power adjustable. The passenger seat is adjustable, though only to 8 ways. If you have the black interior like this, then you get the wood trim on the dashboard. If you have the white interior option, then the trim will be white. Other than that, you get 2 cup holders, 2 wireless phone chargers, and 2 USB-C ports located in this center console area. The front seats are both heated as standard, and most 2021 and newer Model 3s will come with a heated steering wheel. The standout feature in the Model 3 long ranges cabin is the standard 15-speaker sound system. Tesla develops their own sound systems in-house, and it just really works well in this car. I'd say this is on the level of BMW's Harman Kardon and Audi's Bang & Olufsen. If you're looking for a car with a really good audio experience, this is it. Other than that, the Model 3 long range comes with a lot of amenities as standard, though it is pretty minimalist, as you can see. Next up is the Polestar 2, and this car has a pretty unique interior. So first off, the original Polestar 2 we had for this comparison had the Nappa leather seats, but now this has weave tech seats. So basically, if you get a base Polestar 2 without the Plus package, you get cloth seats. If you get it with the Plus package, now the Plus package adds on Harman Kardon sound system, an air ionizer, glass roof, and weave tech seats. And then if you have the Plus package, then you can spend, I think it was around $3,000 to $4,000 more at the time of purchase to get the Nappa leather seats. Now the Nappa leather seats are made out of Nappa leather and they are perforated, so they feel pretty nice. But this weave tech is a very unique material. It feels almost like a hybrid of a cloth and rubber, and there's a lot of texture to it. It's almost like there's something in Braille trying to tell me something about these seats. It's really weird. Now, these back seats also have some cool amenities. So you have a center armrest with 2 cup holders, 2 AC vents with these nice silvery accents. The outboard seats are heated if you have the Plus package. There's also 2 USB-C ports. And one of the unique things you might notice are these gold seatbelt accents. So if you have a performance Polestar 2, then you get these. And honestly, I think they look pretty sick. The only downside about the back seats in here is that this car is based on an internal combustion engine friendly platform. So this one is an electric vehicle, but some other Volvo products use this platform for gas vehicles. And what that means is you have a transmission hump located in the center. So if you do sit back here, there's not a ton of leg room, and the headroom is really not that great either. So if you are sitting in the middle seat, it can be a little awkward. Now, the nice thing about this being on an internal combustion engine platform is that the seating position for the outboard seats is a little bit more natural. So when I sit down here, I'm not squatting down like I am in the Model 3. So I'd say the back seats are fine here, though you just don't really want to be in the middle because the experience won't be so great. Up front, the Polestar 2 is a much different story than the Model 3. So this car has a pretty high center console area, and this vehicle just feels more like a muscle car in terms of the proportions. Especially if you get a Polestar 2 without the Plus package, then you have a metal roof with black headliner, and it just feels a lot more cocooned and enclosed. Regardless of if you have the Plus package or not, the driver's seat will be power adjustable, and both seats will be heated. If you opt for one with the Nappa leather pack, then the front seats will be ventilated. We also get some cool amenities up here, like this nice ambient accent lighting up front. You only get that with the Plus package, but it still looks really nice. We also get a wireless phone charger, 2 USB-C ports, and 2 cup holders, except one of them is located underneath the center console lid. But if you have a Plus package one like this right here, then you get a 12-speaker Harman Kardon sound system, which I honestly think is a really good one. But even if you find a base Polestar 2, you still get an 8-speaker sound system, and I think it has a decent amount of bass and punch for being a base level audio system. So if you are an audiophile, I'd recommend getting the Harman Kardon, but I don't think you would be terribly disappointed with the base one either. This interior feels very fitting for a European sports sedan, except this was manufactured in China. Due to the chip shortage, I had to re-record this portion, but the back seats of the IONIQ 6 are pretty nice. Now, first off, they are made out of H-Tex, which is called Hyundai Tex. It's this leatherette material. It feels pretty nice, and the outboard seats are perforated. Now, if you get a base SE model, they are cloth. SE Unlimited, you get H-Tex. You do get 2 AC vents, 2 USB-C ports, this little storage cubby down here, and ambient lighting in the door panels. There is a center armrest with 2 cup holders, but one thing that is kind of weird about this car is that even if you get a limited trim, you don't get heated rear seats. What is nice, however, is that if you do have a limited, you get a 120 volt power outlet located right under the middle seat. But my favorite thing about the back seats in the IONIQ 6 are just how much space is back here. Look at this. I am sitting upright and I have plenty of leg room, and the driver's seat is in a position that I would normally sit at. In fact, I can even sit in the middle seat and still have plenty of space and lots of leg room. While the IONIQ 6 does not have the most amount of cargo volume compared to the other 2 cars, there is just so much more space in the back seats in here compared to the Model 3 and the Polestar 2. Seriously, I could easily take a nap back here. Look, put down the armrest, and I have so much space. Up front, we also get a lot of space in the IONIQ 6, particularly under this center console area. There's just frankly a lot of room up here, and it's pretty nicely appointed. All IONIQ 6 trims get heated seats up front, and the driver's seat will always be power operated. If you opt for a limited trim, then you get the same leatherette seats, but the front ones will be ventilated. Still, even the SEL offers a decent array of features, including the ambient lighting up front, so you get this nice light bar across the dashboard, and once again in the doors, just like around back, you also get a wireless charging pad for your phone, a USB-A port, 2 USB-C ports located in the center console area, and 2 cup holders. One thing that is a little weird are the window controls, which are located in the center of the vehicle. So if you want to roll down the windows, you got to use the center console area, and the lock and unlock switch is also positioned here. As you can tell, the IONIQ 6 SEL does not come with a glass roof. If you do spring for the limited trim, then you will get kind of like a regular sunroof that opens up, but it's not as big as what you get in the Polestar 2 or Model 3. The limited trim also brings a heated steering wheel and an 8-speaker Bose audio system featuring a subwoofer. SELs like this come with a 6-speaker sound system, and putting it nicely, it's not very good. The Limited in the Bose is obviously better, but definitely not on the level of the Polestar 2 or the Model 3. Still, I think there's a lot to appreciate about this interior, especially with the overall looks and the space. Our interior segment winner goes to the IONIQ 6. Now, this was really tough because I really like the Model 3 standard features. You get the good sound system, get the heated front and rear seats, and the glass roof, which are all very nice. However, and a big however, the amount of space in the back seats of the IONIQ 6 really sealed the deal for me. I've taken long road trips before in my Model 3 with 4 people, and it can just feel a little squished after a while, but in the IONIQ 6, you really have almost SUV levels of room back here, and if I was going to take any of these cars on a long road trip and sit in the interior for a long time, this would definitely be it. Next up is software, and the Model 3 really excels in this category. So first off, not all 2022 Model 3s will have the more advanced AMD Ryzen chip. This one is still on the Intel Atom, but as you can see, it's still pretty responsive. And I guess, by the way, if you're curious to see the differences between each year of the Model 3s, we've compared them all in a recent video, which is linked right up there. So if you'd like to see which ones come with the AMD Ryzen chip or Intel Atom, you can find all that out located up there. Now, this is still a pretty responsive screen, and the nice thing about Tesla's infotainment is just how easy it is to plan routes. So say we want to go to, oh, I don't know, the lovely Colorado School of Mines. And look at that, within the matter of seconds, we get our full route planned out. We can see exactly when and where we need to make our charging stops at and for how long. The Model 3 is easily one of the best cars to road trip with just because of this incredible route planner. The Model 3 also comes with a built-in dash cam, and this uses all 8 of the exterior cameras and even tells you the speed you were at when the feature was activated. So in case of an accident, you can hand over all the relevant information to law enforcement. You also get Sentry mode, and this can be activated when the car is parked, and this acts as a security camera feature to make sure no one breaks in. You also get theater mode, so you can sign into Netflix or YouTube, which is pretty cool, and if you have premium connectivity, which costs $10 a month, you can access that from anywhere, so you don't need to be on Wi-Fi. There's some other kind of cool modes, some Easter eggs like romance mode. You also have the boom box, so you can play music from the exterior speaker on the car, which is kind of neat. If you want to adjust options when it comes to charging your vehicle, you can go to the charging mode menu, easily adjust the limit that you want the car to maximum charge to, and if you want to adjust current very easily, you can adjust it right there. Finally, just the connectivity of this car is awesome. So if you're planning out road trips, you can plan it out in Apple Maps or Google Maps on your phone, and then you can just airdrop it to your car, and then your whole route will be implemented into your car's infotainment. And the Tesla app is just overall really impressive. So you can unlock the doors, turn on the climate controls, turn on the heated seats, and even access Sentry mode, so you can see a live camera feed of your car when it's parked. The Model 3 just takes connectedness to a whole new level. When you get in the Polestar 2, you can see that this is more of a traditional setup. You have this nice center display located behind the steering wheel, and what's really cool is that you can toggle different modes. So you can have a minimalist look, or you can also see your full map behind the steering wheel. Migrating over to the center screen, we have a kind of thick bezeled look, which I don't particularly love, but what is nice, we do have a volume knob located right here and easy access if we want to turn on our defrosters for the front or rear window, and our hazard button located right there. This center screen is generally fine. I'll start off with the good stuff. So if we want to plan a road trip, let's just type in Denver, Colorado. The car will plan our route out, and by the way, this uses Google Maps, and this is a Google-based system. And there we go. We can see our route is getting made, and it's finding our charging stops. And right there, you can click 11 charging stops, and just like the Model 3, you can see exactly when and where you will need to make your stops. But there are some things I don't particularly love. Starting off with the responsiveness. If I click here, it just takes a little time to go to different menu modes, which I'm not a huge fan of. And even if I want to access stuff like climate controls, it's not easily apparent. Like, I don't even see where the climate control menu is. I'll have to press this car again, and only then we will see our climate controls pop up on the bottom screen. It's also kind of weird because the temperature goes up and down in increments of 2, which is a little strange. And then if I click here, we can see more temperatures, but still, if I want to change the fan speed and stuff like that, you have to go here, and then you can adjust the fan speed. It's just a couple extra steps that I don't really like. But what is nice is if you have a car with the Pilot package, then you get this 360 camera, which really isn't the best 360 cam there is out there, but nevertheless, you do get a 360 view. You also have some apps like the Model 3. You can go to YouTube if you want to. And this car does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Unfortunately, it is not wireless, so you will need to use a wired connection to enable that feature. One pretty cool thing is this performance menu, which doesn't really do that much. It just shows you a G-force meter, but nevertheless, it's pretty cool. Overall, this infotainment system isn't quite as exhaustive as the Model 3 in terms of features, but it does pretty much everything you want it to. And I guess on one final note, if you want to adjust your charging limits, you can easily adjust them there, and you can turn down the current when you are level 2 charging. Overall, the system doesn't feel as advanced as the Model 3, but it's pretty familiar and relatively easy to get the hang of. The IONIQ 6 feels the most traditional when you compare it to the Polestar 2 and Model 3. One thing I really like about this is that we have a physical volume knob located right here. We can easily tune the radio and click here to access the backup camera. Now, you don't get the 360 view on the SEL, so you just have a backup cam. This climate control area might look a little convoluted at first, but it's pretty easy to use. So you can do temperature right here, you can do fan speed located right there, and then obviously your heated windshield, heated rear windshield, and recirculation buttons are in easy reach. This is the only EV in our comparison that has a start-stop button, which I'm not a huge fan of. I don't think there's a point to have a start-stop button in an EV, but if you want like reassurance that your car's on or off, the button's there for you. Moving up, we have our center screen, and it's totally okay. So if we want to go into some settings, I don't know, let's just say climate, there's always some weird stuff. Like you see here, like a ventilated seat icon, and then you click on it, and it says warmer or ventilation, and then there's just no option for ventilated seats because this doesn't have ventilated seats. So stuff like that's a little weird. The climate controls through the screen aren't laid out the best, but nevertheless, you have the buttons down there to adjust the climate controls. Other than that, this car does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, though just like the Polestar, you don't have a wireless connection, so you need to use a cord. And unfortunately, in this 2023 model year car, you need a USB-A to Lightning or USB-C, which is a little strange. This car does have a built-in EV route planner, though it's not very good. Just looking at this, it feels like I'm planning a missile strike in 1980s Soviet Russia. Like, this just does not look very nice at all. That said, if we want to plan a route, you press that little search button, and let's say we want to go to Colorado again. Type in Denver, Colorado pops up, and then we press route. The satellite view looks decent. All right, so now it's planning our route. It says that the charging stations have been added. And yeah, and as you can see, it's just kind of weird. Why would we have two charging stops like right next to each other? That's very odd. Like, we're gonna stop here for 12 minutes and then go to another station for 22 minutes. Why not just make it all the way out to that one if you're getting in at 26%? Like I said, not very advanced when you compare it to the Model 3 and Polestar 2. If I'm road tripping in this car, I would probably just plan out my road trip by myself in PlugShare, then translate that over to Google Maps, and then use Apple CarPlay. This car does have an EV screen, and this is actually really nice. So here we can see what our range is if we have climate control turned on or off, and if we adjust the fan speed, then the climate on speed will also adjust. So that's pretty cool attention to detail. If we click on this settings button right here, then we can choose our charging limit. So we can do our DC charging limit, our AC charging limit, and we can also step down the current as well. This car also has a charging voice prompt. This is kind of weird, but when you plug in the car, it will say that the vehicle's charging in a robotic voice, which is somewhat cool. I appreciate the charging menu in this car because there's actually a decent amount of customizability. Moving over to our driver's display, we have our range, our speed, and what's really cool is that if we press the drive mode button, first off, we see different lights on our steering wheel, and then we can get different range estimates for different modes. So eco mode gives us a different range estimate than sport mode, and it also changes the way this gauge cluster looks. If we want to adjust stuff like our regen braking, we pull back here, and then we can go into full one pedal driving mode, which is called iPedal. If you have an all-wheel drive one like this, then you will see the little power gauge for each wheel. I think the entire infotainment setup in here is fine. I definitely can't rely on this EV route planner just because it's frankly not that good. But if you are looking for a more traditional feeling vehicle, I think you'd be happy with the IONIQ 6. Our segment winner is a surefire win for the Model 3. This car just has such a seamless software experience. The app works incredibly well, and there is so much functionality from Sentry mode to the dash cam recorder to the easy-to-use EV route planner. This is the only vehicle in our comparison that regularly receives software updates that make this car meaningfully better. Even on this older computer, the Model 3's software game is still ahead of the competition. On the charging front, the Model 3 has a peak charge rate of 250 kilowatts. The charging curve is okay. It starts to taper off a lot once you're up to around 50% state of charge. In fact, you're probably only looking at 100 to maybe 110 kilowatts in an ideal charging situation. But the 10 to 80% is still around 30 minutes, which is an overall good time. AC charging is at 11 kilowatts, and this car is good for a real-world range of around 300 to 310 miles. Once again, the vast majority of 2021 through 2023 Model 3s will come with an 82 kilowatt-hour battery. The real bread and butter with charging a Tesla is the fact that you have access to the supercharging network, and it's just super easy to plan a route. Plus, whenever you pull up to a supercharger, you simply plug in, it does a handshake with the vehicle, and bills your credit card. The Model 3 just makes public charging really easy. The Polestar 2 has a peak charge rate of 150 kilowatts and a fine charging curve as well. This car can charge from 10 to 80% in around 35 to 40 minutes, so it's definitely a good bit slower than the Model 3. Plus, this car is a lot less efficient than both of these vehicles, and we get a real-world range of around 240 miles. And that's from a 78 kilowatt-hour battery pack. When you're charging at home or on a level 2 charger, this car can accept 11 kilowatts. The IONIQ 6 is a standout option here because we have an 800-volt battery architecture. The IONIQ 6 has a peak charge rate of 240 kilowatts, but it has a really good charging curve. In fact, even if you're up to around 60% state of charge, this vehicle will still be accepting at around 200 kilowatts. The IONIQ 6 has a 10 to 80% charge time of just 18 minutes. Like the Polestar 2, the IONIQ 6 can use superchargers with an adapter. There is one caveat, and that's that this car uses an 800-volt battery architecture. A lot of V3 and below superchargers are only capable of 480 volts. That means if you plug in this to a regular Tesla supercharger, you'll only get 100 kilowatts. That's because you'll need to step up the voltage using the rear drive unit inverter. Still, if you're planning your road trip around a charging stop, it's fine to charge at 100 kilowatts because it will still be done in a reasonable amount of time. If you want really fast charging times, you'll have to use a V4 supercharger, or most Electrify America, ChargePoint, and EVgo stations are capable of supplying enough voltage to match the battery pack. AC charging also tops out at 11 kilowatts. One of the really cool features on the IONIQ 6 is that you have V2L, which is vehicle to load compatibility. If you have the specific adapter, you can plug it into the charge port, and then you can offload 1.8 kilowatts of power to something else. So in theory, you can level 1 charge another EV from your IONIQ 6. That functionality makes this car very practical if you want to go camping in it or during a power outage. Our charging segment winners are split between the Model 3 and the IONIQ 6. The Model 3 will just make your EV road trips really easy. It doesn't charge as fast as the IONIQ 6, but thanks to the supercharging network access and the fact that you don't need to pull out credit cards or even initiate a charging session from your app, this Model 3 just makes it really seamless. The IONIQ 6 also stands out because it has vehicle to load and also the 800-volt architecture that allows for super fast charging speeds. If you like to plan out your own road trips with your charging stops, the IONIQ 6 will be great because it just charges so fast. Now, let's get these cars out on the road and see how they drive. Now we are driving the Tesla Model 3. I've actually had two Model 3s. I had a 2019 and then I recently upgraded to a 2021, and I've really enjoyed my time with those cars. Getting into this 2022, I can notice some slight improvements over my 2021. I think the ride quality is a little bit better. That could also be that this one is on 18-inch wheels as opposed to mine, which is on 19-inch wheels. But other than that, I really have no complaints in terms of the overall ride quality. As for the ride feel, it definitely feels sporty. We have stiffer suspension and the steering is very responsive. In fact, there's no one on the road right now, so if I just make quick steering inputs, you get instantaneous feedback. It's really nice. It can be a little twitchy, I'd say, at times, but if you want a responsive steering feel in a car, the Model 3, in my opinion, has probably the best response out of any mainstream car on the road. It's just a very, very snappy and responsive steering wheel. We get around 400 horsepower. Tesla doesn't tell you what the exact horsepower number is, which is really lame, but it's around 400 horsepower, and this car weighs in at just over 4,000 pounds. That gives us the best power to weight ratio out of any of the other cars in our comparison. If we want to accelerate a little bit, you floor the accelerator, and yeah, this car is plenty quick. 0 to 60 is in 4.2 seconds, which is fast. And if you want the car to feel even quicker, you can pay $2,000 for an over-the-air update, and then the car can get additional power, delivering a 0 to 60 time of 3.7 seconds. My specific Model 3 has that upgrade, and you can really feel it. This car has a much more responsive accelerator. Not that it isn't responsive already, it already feels pretty responsive, but it feels even more sharp, and the power delivery is a lot more intense. When you take the Model 3 through corners, it feels very planted. There's not a lot of body roll, and the very responsive steering just makes it feel pretty engaging. And especially when you exit corners, this car feels plenty fun. On the highway, the Model 3 feels planted, though there is some more road and wind noise. So this car is just a noisier vehicle when you're at highway speeds. You get autopilot as standard, and what that does is it centers yourself in the lane and uses adaptive cruise control to keep you a safe distance from the car ahead of you. For those who crave autonomy, there is always FSD, and FSD costs $99 a month or $8,000 upfront. Or if you're lucky, you can find a used one with FSD that's already been paid for. And FSD can drive pretty much anywhere. So it can do highway driving, it can do merging on ramps, stopping at stop signs, navigating through city streets, pretty much anything. FSD is really cool. The only thing is when you get an older Model 3 like this, you will be running on hardware 3. So you're not going to be running on the latest hardware 4, which you only get in the Highland Model 3. FSD is actually hands-free, so you just need to look forward. The camera in the cabin will monitor you, and then it will continue keeping FSD turned on. But then if you have autopilot, you can take your hands off the wheel for around 30 seconds to a minute, depending on what type of road you're on. So autopilot is hands-on, FSD is hands-free. In sum, the Model 3 drives really well. It's fun and playful, and you got a good amount of safety features to make your drives less stressful. Driving the Polestar 2. So right now we're coming up on a corner, and let's just see what this car has to offer. So the Polestar 2 definitely feels heavy because it's 4,600 and I believe 4,665 pounds. So there's definitely a lot of mass to this vehicle, but the handling is really good. Now this particular one I'm in is the Performance, as you can see by the gold seatbelt strap, but I've driven pretty much all other trims of the Polestar 2, the front wheel drive, the all-wheel drive with 19-inch wheels, 20-inch wheels, and now the Performance with 20-inch wheels. and they all drive really well. The performance is obviously a lot better in terms of handling. The suspension is a little bit stiffer, so you will get some more vibrations and intrusions in the cabin, but I think any Polestar 2 you will get will have very good handling. The steering feel is also really nice in the Polestar. It's pretty heavy, and you can even customize it in the settings, so you can go from light, medium to firm, and it just feels like a nice premium sedan. The power delivery is really good as well. So this car makes 408 horsepower, and if I accelerate right now at like 60 miles per hour, you still get a really good surge of torque. Polestar says it's good for a 0 to 60 time of about 4.5 seconds. This car has really customizable one-pedal driving, so you can go from completely off to low or standard, and you can turn creep on or off. And when you have one-pedal driving on, it's a very, very well-tuned accelerator pedal. So it's very smooth when you go from acceleration to regen. There's no lurchiness, no hesitation, nothing like that. Polestar has really fine-tuned this accelerator pedal. The overall ride quality is really good in the Polestar 2. I would say there's probably above average tire noise, but other than that, the rest of the cabin just feels very muted from the outside. There's no rattles or anything like that, and this just feels like a very well-built vehicle. When you're at highway speeds, the Polestar 2 just feels very planted and composed, and I really like the steering feel in this car compared to the Tesla, because this just feels a lot more, I don't know, refined, because I think in the Tesla, it's a little too twitchy for my liking when you're at highway speeds, but this car just feels like a normal, natural performance steering system. The one unfortunate side of the Polestar 2 is that not all of them come with the semi-autonomous driving functionality. So if you get a regular base Polestar 2, and I've driven one of these for a couple months as a rental since my personal car was in an accident about a year ago, you get nothing. You don't get adaptive cruise control. You don't get lane centering, none of that. So if you get a base Polestar 2, and that's without the Pilot package, you're basically just gonna have to manually drive the car in all circumstances. But if you get a Polestar 2 with the Pilot package, like this one has right here, then you get lane centering, you get adaptive cruise control, you get a blind spot monitor, and this car does a pretty good job when it's in this Pilot assist mode. You can take your hands off the wheel for around 10 seconds before it will tell you to put your hands back on, so not quite as long as the Model 3 or as we'll see in the Hyundai IONIQ 6. For what it's worth, I think this is a pretty refined system. I really enjoy the driving experience in the Polestar 2, especially if you have the Plus package. You get a good array of safety amenities, and this car just feels very refined. You have a good feeling accelerator pedal, a good feeling brake pedal, the steering feels good, it's quick enough. If you're looking for more of a traditional sports sedan, I think you'll really like the Polestar 2. All right, it is now IONIQ 6 time. Due to the political uprisings in the Middle East, I had to get into a rear-wheel drive version to do the driving impressions, but rest assured, I've driven the all-wheel drive before. I've driven a lot of eGMP vehicles, rear and all-wheel drive, so I'm pretty familiar with the differences. I will accelerate, nevertheless. This is my expression for the rear-wheel drive. If I'm going to imagine this is all-wheel drive and I accelerate, that would be my impression, so there you go. Now, when you're first driving this car, you'll really appreciate just how comfortable and quiet it is. The IONIQ 6 definitely has more body roll than the other two cars we compared it against, though it does feel a little more relaxing. So the suspension is softer, the steering is lighter, and it almost feels like a floaty luxury sedan. The visibility is also pretty good. We have a big windshield, and these side windows are also very large. Now, accelerating up to highway speeds, the IONIQ 6 doesn't really have a lot of wind noise, and it feels pretty stable. As for safety, the IONIQ 6 comes as standard with HDA, that's Hyundai Driving Assistant. In Kias, it's called HDA as well, but then it refers to Highway Driving Assistant, same system. But what this does is it has lane centering and adaptive cruise control. So it's similar to Tesla Autopilot, and this one you can take your hands off the wheel for around 30 seconds. In some ways, I actually prefer this to Autopilot because A, it's not camera based, because in the Tesla, you could just look at your center screen and it would like freak out, be like, get your eyes back on the road. But in this one, It doesn't have a camera, so if you need to look at your maps, it's cool. It also has concurrent steering. Now the Polestar does this as well. So if you want to take the right or left portion of the lane, you can steer yourself over in those directions, and HDA will still be turned on. Once you let go of the steering wheel, it'll center yourself up again. If you spring for a limited IONIQ 6, then you get HDA 2.0, and what that does is it actually allows for automated lane changes. So you simply put on your blinker and then the car can change lanes for you. It still requires you to like put your hand on once during that operation, but it can change lanes almost on its own. The IONIQ 6 does offer one pedal driving. Now you can adjust this to 4 levels. You can go with no regen all the way up to one pedal driving, and it works pretty well. I'm not a huge fan of the calibration on here. I think there's a little bit of a delay when you let off the accelerator to begin regenning, and sometimes it can be a little jerky when you get down to that complete stop. So definitely not as refined as Polestar or Tesla. The one thing that I do like, however, is that it's adjustable through these paddle shifters on the steering wheel. So if you want to go from no regen to high regen, it's really easy to do so. Another little gripe is that the accelerator pedal isn't quite as responsive as in the Polestar or Tesla. So if you are even in sport mode and you floor the accelerator, it just doesn't really have that same sharp feeling that both of those other cars do. After having spent some time behind the wheel of the IONIQ 6, I really like it. It has a nice luxury sedan feel to it, and it's definitely the most comfortable out of the three. Put best, the IONIQ 6 drives like an electrified version of a premium traditional sedan. I'm having trouble finding a winner for the driving segment because these vehicles all drive very differently, so I think we will have to split the crown between these three cars. If you value raw power and an engaging driving experience, you're gonna like the Model 3. It has very snappy steering, and it's the quickest car out of all three of these. The Polestar 2 offers the best performance driving feel. This car has a very heavy steering wheel, and it just feels like a traditional European sports sedan. Plus, if you get a performance version like this one right here, you get a lot of meaningful upgrades. You get better dampers, better suspension, you get better brake calipers, and a lot of changes that make this car feel even more engaging. The IONIQ 6 offers the most unique driving experience out of all these cars. It's the most relaxed, and it just feels very composed when you're driving at highway speeds. The suspension is more forgiving, and the steering is a lot lighter. The IONIQ 6 drives like a luxury vehicle. Now it's verdict time. Which car do we recommend? Well, if we tally up the points, we have 4 for the Model 3, 3 for the Polestar, and 4 for the IONIQ 6. That would mean the winner is a draw between the Model 3 and IONIQ 6, but instead of just saying that, I'd like to make a case for each of these cars. If you're looking for an EV with great range, impressive acceleration, and a true software-defined experience, you should go with the Model 3. The Model 3 may not be the most exciting car here, but its software experience is truly leagues ahead of the competition. Alternatively, if you'd like a performance EV, if you want something that feels like it's a sports sedan, something that looks the part as well, you will be really happy with the Polestar 2. The Polestar 2 doesn't have the best range or charging experience, but it's a very satisfying vehicle to drive. And just look at it, especially with the performance pack. You got those 20-inch wheels, gold brake calipers, and an overall design that just looks very high-end. And lastly, we have the IONIQ 6. This car has industry-leading charging times and plenty of space on the interior. The IONIQ 6 SEL may not have as many premium amenities as you get in the Polestar 2 with the Plus package or the Model 3 long range, but when you're behind the wheel, this feels the most like a luxury car. You have a floaty ride and light steering, and it's a very pleasant vehicle to be in. And with that said, I can confidently recommend any of these 3 EVs. They all serve different purposes, and I truly think that each of these vehicles are great options on the used market, especially under $25,000. If you enjoyed today's video, please start sports betting at your kid's swim meet, or just go to a random swim meet and sports bet there. Alternatively, you can press the subscribe button. Thank you for watching.